Hi, today we're going to talk about the stars in your eyes. Specifically, what happens when we rub our eyes. Hello, I'm Dr. Joel Hunter, and today we're going to be talking about why do I enter into another dimension when I rub my eyes. This was actually on a thread on Reddit. People were asking, if you really are tired or if you're stressed out and you rub your eyes real hard, you may have noticed that you see what look like stars. You see these scintillating lights that are just coming in from the side, and it's a weird phenomenon if you don't know what causes it. But it's actually really, really straightforward if you do know what causes it. As I do often, I'm going to draw an eye and stand inside of it. You're really lucky that was sped up because it made a really squeaky noise while I was drawing the retina. So let's get straight to the part that we're talking about. Up here in the front of the eye, we've been over that in other videos, but now we're where the cause of the problem is, which is inside the back of the eye. So your eye is a globe, it's a circle. So if we were standing inside of it, looking at it from the side like this, then we would see this image right here. About 75–80% of your eye is made up of this big open cavity. Only it's not an open cavity, there's stuff inside there so that your eye looks like a globe instead of looking like a shriveled up raisin. There's this one specific giant body of gel in here that's called the vitreous. Now, even though we drew the vitreous as something that is inserting into the retina, it's not. It's actually got its own body. If I had a finer marker, I could draw where it's just stuck straight up against the retina here, because the retina is the actual wallpaper to the back of the eye. And so this vitreous gel, it's got this body to it and it's got a wall to it, a really, really thin membrane. It's called the hyaloid face, in case you're ever faced with that on a test. And that hyaloid face is held up against the retina all the way around, and so there's equal pressure all the way around on this wallpaper of the eye. It's actually part of what keeps the wallpaper against the eye, but not most of it. The retina stays there either way. When you are pushing on the front of your eye, you're causing pressure to be transferred from the front of your eye to back here. So if you imagine that you're transferring pressure to the front of the eye, and it could be your finger, it could be your fist, the back of your knuckles, it could be a marker for all that matter. If I were to take this and push on my eye, it would cause the same thing. There's a transfer of pressure that goes from the front of your eye. This stuff's all filled with water too. It's called aqueous. But that fluid, fluids aren't compressible. And so this fluid, it's not going to get compressed. It's going to transfer that force of pressure to the lens. The lens, it's made of solid. It's not going to get compressed. It's going to transfer that back to the vitreous. And so it does. It pushes that back into the vitreous. And that vitreous takes that pressure and it evenly distributes it out all across that surface that it's sitting right up against, which you may remember was the retina. Now the interesting thing about the retina is it's this layer of very, very finely tuned, highly specialized neurosensory tissue. And so it can't feel pain, it can't get itchy, it can't get crampy, but it can create light, or what we see as light, because everything that we see is because there's retinal stimulation. Now normally it's because there's light coming into the eye. These arrows represent light rays instead of pressure. But when it's pressure coming in and that pressure is being pushed out onto the retina, you can bet that stimulates your retina too. And so it responds by firing. And it fires in the only way it knows how to. It says there's light out here. But because that pressure is kind of evenly pushed out in a random distribution, you see those stars that are on the peripheral of your vision or sometimes in the center. One bonus factoid about this, you have to be careful, don't poke yourself in the eye hard enough to injure yourself. There's my really obvious disclaimer. But if you close your eye and then put pressure with your finger on just one spot on the lower side of your eye and kind of put pressure, say you put your finger right there, you'll notice that as you do that, and I'll just show you if I go like this, what I can see when I do that is there's this little moving light source that's above, and what that is it represents where my retina is getting stimulated by my finger. The reason it's up there is because everything on your retina is upside down and reversed. So when you rub your eyes and you enter into another dimension, just know what you're really doing is transferring a little bit of pressure from your finger all the way back to the neurosensory that lines the back of your eye. It's just a little hello. I hope that helps explain why you see stars in your eyes.